Christmas morning. Our family living room in Charlotte, North Carolina. The tree was massive, decorated with expensive ornaments Mom had spent weeks arranging. Presents piled underneath like a department store display. My parents sat on the couch. My older brother Ryan and his wife Chelsea on the love seat. And me, cross-legged on the floor like I was still a child. We were opening gifts. Ryan had just unwrapped his present from our parents, a Rolex. $35,000 on his wrist. Chelsea got diamond earrings. Mom and Dad were beaming as they modeled their new designer watches, gifts from Ryan. Then Ryan picked up my gift to him. A small box, wrapped carefully in paper I'd chosen specifically because it was his favorite color. Blue. He tore it open. Pulled out a leather journal. Handmade. From a local artisan. I'd spent weeks finding the perfect one. Had his initials embossed on the cover. Chose paper that was thick and cream-colored, perfect for the writing he used to love doing. Ryan stared at it. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "Another cheap thing you bought," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. He tossed it onto the coffee table like it was garbage. "Seriously, Megan? A notebook? What am I, 12? The room went quiet. Mom looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Dad examined his new watch. Chelsea smirked. My face burned. "It's a handmade journal. You used to write." I thought. "You thought wrong," Ryan interrupted. "I haven't written in years. But I guess you wouldn't know that since you're too busy being poor to pay attention to what's actually going on in my life." Too busy being poor. Like my financial situation was a moral failing. Like I'd chosen to struggle. I worked as a teacher. Made $38,000 a year. Lived in a small apartment. Drove a car with 200,000 miles. Ryan was a hedge fund manager. Made 7 figures. Lived in a penthouse. Drove cars that cost more than I'd make in 5 years. And our parents worshipped him for it. "Ryan, that's enough," Mom said weakly. But she didn't ask him to apologize. Didn't defend me. Just wanted the awkward moment to pass. I stood up. Grabbed my coat. "I'm leaving." "Oh, come on," Ryan said. "Don't be dramatic." I was just joking. "No, you weren't. You've been treating me like garbage for years because I'm not as rich as you. And I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." I walked out. Got in my car. Drove home with tears streaming down my face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Ryan's words. His contempt. The way my parents had just sat there. The way this had become normal. Ryan had always been the golden child. Smart, ambitious, successful. Everything he touched turned to gold. And I was the disappointing daughter. The one who chose a noble but impractical career. The one who couldn't keep up. For years, I'd accepted it. Told myself family was family. That I should just ignore the jabs, the comparisons, the constant reminders that I wasn't good enough. But something broke that Christmas morning. Something fundamental. I pulled out my laptop. Started going through old emails. Old documents. Things I'd saved over the years without really knowing why. And I found something interesting. Something I'd almost forgotten about. 10 years ago, when Ryan was starting his career, he'd been broke. Desperate. He'd asked to borrow money from our grandmother. $20,000. Said it was for an investment opportunity that would change his life. Grandma had given it to him. Made him sign a promissory note. Said she wanted it in writing, even though she trusted him. She was old-fashioned that way. Ryan never paid her back. And when Grandma died 5 years ago, he'd never mentioned the debt. Had stood at her funeral talking about what an inspiration she'd been. How much he'd loved her. How grateful he was for her support. He'd inherited $50,000 from her estate. Never mentioned he'd owed her $20,000. Just took the money and bought a new car. I had the promissory note. Grandma had given me a copy when she'd made me executor of her estate. I'd found it while sorting through her papers. Had asked Ryan about it at the time. He'd said it was paid back. That Grandma had forgiven the debt informally. That there was no need to pursue it. I'd believed him. Because he was my brother. Because I trusted him. But now, looking at the document with fresh eyes, I saw something I'd missed before. A clause. If the debt wasn't repaid within 5 years, it would accrue interest at 8% annually. And it could be inherited by Grandma's heirs. I was Grandma's heir, the executor of her estate, which meant I could legally pursue this debt. $20,000 plus 10 years of compound interest at 8%. I pulled up a calculator. Did the math. Ryan owed the estate $43,000. I sat back, my heart pounding. This was it. This was how I could show Ryan that his contempt had consequences. That treating people like garbage because they had less money wasn't consequence-free. I spent the next week consulting with lawyers. The promissory note was valid, legally binding. And as executor of Grandma's estate, I had the right to collect. The lawyer sent Ryan a formal demand letter. $43,000, payable within 30 days, or face legal action. Ryan called me within an hour of receiving it. He was screaming. What the hell is this? You're suing me? Your own brother. I'm not suing you, I said calmly. I'm collecting a debt you owe Grandma's estate. A debt you lied about paying back. That debt was forgiven. Grandma told me not to worry about it. Then you should have gotten that in writing. But you didn't. So legally, you still owe it. With interest. This is insane. You're doing this because I made a joke about your cheap gift. I'm doing this because you've treated me like I'm worthless for years. Because you've used your money as a weapon to make me feel small. Because you stood at Grandma's funeral and lied about what kind of person you were. This isn't about the gift, Ryan. This is about who you've become. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this. If they choose you over basic honesty and decency, that tells me everything I need to know about them too. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Agency. The ability to stand up for myself. Ryan didn't pay within 30 days. So I filed a lawsuit. It became public record. Ryan's friends started finding out. His colleagues. People in his social circle who thought he was this upstanding, successful guy. Suddenly, everyone knew he'd borrowed money from his dying grandmother and never paid it back. That he'd lied about it. That he was being sued by his own sister for debt collection. His reputation took a hit. Not a huge one, he was still rich and successful. But enough that people started looking at him differently. Started questioning his character. Mom called me. Megan, you need to drop this lawsuit. You're tearing this family apart. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm holding Ryan accountable for his actions. Something you and Dad should have done years ago. He's your brother. And I'm your daughter. But you've never defended me. Never stood up for me when Ryan treated me like garbage. So forgive me if I don't care about protecting him now. This is about money. You're just jealous that he's successful and you're not. This is about respect. About honesty. About the fact that Ryan thinks he can treat people however he wants because he's rich. And you've enabled that behavior my entire life. If you go through with this, you're not welcome at family events anymore. My heart sank. But I'd expected this. Then I guess I'm not welcome. I hung up, cried for an hour, then pulled myself together and moved forward. The lawsuit took 6 months. Ryan fought it, hired expensive lawyers, tried to argue that the debt was forgiven, that the promissory note was invalid, that I was pursuing this maliciously. But the evidence was clear. The note was valid. There was no written forgiveness. The debt was legal and enforceable. The judge ruled in my favor. Ryan was ordered to pay $43,000, plus my legal fees, which came to another $12,000. $55,000 total. Ryan had to liquidate some investments to pay it. It wasn't enough to bankrupt him, he was too wealthy for that. But it hurt. It was embarrassing. It was public. And most importantly, it was justice. I didn't keep the money. I donated it. All of it. To a scholarship fund for teachers pursuing advanced degrees. Put it in Grandma's name. Made sure it would help people who'd chosen service over profit. That felt right. Felt like what Grandma would have wanted. 3 months after the judgment, I got a text from Chelsea, Ryan's wife. "We need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee?" I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a Starbucks. Chelsea looked different. Tired. Less polished than usual. "I'm divorcing Ryan," she said without preamble. "And I wanted you to know that you were right about him." I blinked. "What?" "The lawsuit. The debt. The way he treated you. You were right. Ryan is a terrible person. I've known it for a while, but I ignored it because the lifestyle was nice. But watching him fight you in court, watching him lie and manipulate and play victim, it was too much. I can't be married to someone like that." "I'm sorry," I said. And I meant it. I didn't like Chelsea much, but I didn't want her to suffer. "Don't be. This is the push I needed. And honestly, the way he's handled money in our marriage is terrifying. He's controlling, manipulative, uses money to make me dependent on him. I've been planning my exit for months." She paused. "I also wanted to tell you something. Ryan took money from your parents. A lot of money. Borrowed it for investments and never paid it back. They're too proud to admit it, but they're struggling financially. That's why they've been so protective of him. Because they're financially dependent on him." My stomach dropped. "How much?" "Over $300,000. Borrowed over the last decade. He tells them he'll pay it back when his investments mature, but he never does. And they're too scared to push him because they think he'll cut them off." This explained so much. Why they always took his side. Why they couldn't stand up to him. They weren't just enabling his behavior, they were trapped by it. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know. And because Ryan needs to face consequences. Real consequences. You started that process. Maybe you can finish it." She left. I sat there for a long time processing everything. My parents were victims too. In a different way than me, but victims nonetheless. That night, I called Mom. "We need to talk. About Ryan and the money he owes you." Silence. "Then, who told you about that?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that he's been taking advantage of you for years. And you've let him because you're scared." "We're not scared. We're helping our son." "He's not a son at that point. He's a parasite. And you're enabling him because you think that's what love looks like. But it's not. Love has boundaries. Love has accountability. You don't understand. We need him. We made some bad investments and he's trapped you. Made you financially dependent so you'll always take his side. So you'll always protect him. Even when he's wrong. Even when he's hurting people." Mom started crying. "We don't know how to get out. We're in too deep. You get out by holding him accountable. By demanding he pay you back. By standing up to him. He'll cut us off completely. Then he's not your son. He's your abuser. And you need to decide if you're going to keep letting him hurt you." The call ended without resolution. But I'd planted a seed. Made them think about their situation differently. 2 weeks later, Dad called me. "Your mother and I have been talking. We want to pursue legal action against Ryan. For the money he owes us. But we don't know how." "I can help you," I said. "I have a lawyer. He can handle this. Will you help us even after how we've treated you?" I thought about it. These people had failed me repeatedly. Had chosen Ryan over me. Had hurt me deeply. But they were also trapped. Victims of Ryan's manipulation. And maybe helping them was how I could finally break free from this family's toxic patterns. "Yes," I said. "I'll help you." The next lawsuit was bigger. More complicated. My parents sued Ryan for $320,000 in unpaid loans. With interest, it came to over $400,000. Ryan was livid. He hired even more expensive lawyers. Tried to argue the loans were gifts. That there was no expectation of repayment. But my parents had emails, text messages, records of conversations where Ryan had explicitly promised to pay them back. Where he'd laid out timelines and payment plans that he'd never honored. The evidence was overwhelming. During the trial, things came out. Ryan's financial situation wasn't as solid as it appeared. He lived beyond his means, made risky investments, borrowed from multiple sources. His lifestyle was built on debt and deception. The judge was not sympathetic. Ruled in my parents' favor. Ordered Ryan to pay the full amount plus legal fees. This time, it hurt Ryan. Really hurt him. He had to sell his penthouse, downgrade his cars, cut back dramatically on his lifestyle. Chelsea's divorce was finalized around the same time. She got a significant settlement because of Ryan's financial dishonesty during the marriage. Ryan's house of cards was collapsing, and I watched it happen with mixed feelings. Satisfaction, sadness, relief, grief. He called me one night, 3 a.m, drunk. "Are you happy now?" he slurred. "You destroyed me. Took everything. Turned mom and dad against me. Ruined my marriage. Are you satisfied?" "I didn't destroy you, Ryan. You destroyed yourself. You spent years treating people like they were beneath you. Using money as a weapon. Manipulating everyone around you. I just held you accountable. I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother when you decided I wasn't worth basic respect. When you mocked me for being poor. When you stole from our grandmother and lied about it. When you trapped our parents in debt and controlled them with fear. I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. You meant every word. Every sneer. Every condescending comment. You enjoyed making me feel small. And now you're facing consequences and you can't handle it." He was crying. "I don't know how to fix this. You start by being honest. By apologizing to everyone you've hurt. By paying back your debts. By becoming a person of integrity instead of just pretending to be one. Will you forgive me?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. But not today. Today, you need to figure out who you want to be. And whether that person is someone worth knowing." I hung up. Blocked his number. I wasn't ready to hear his apologies. Wasn't ready to trust him again. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. 6 months after everything settled, I had dinner with my parents. First time we'd spoken in person since the lawsuit. "We're sorry," Dad said. "For everything. For choosing Ryan. For not protecting you. For letting him manipulate us. For failing you as parents." Mom nodded, crying. We were so focused on his success that we couldn't see what kind of person he'd become. Couldn't see how we were hurting you. "We failed you, Megan. Completely." I took a deep breath. "You did. And it hurt. A lot. But I also understand you were trapped. That Ryan used money to control you. That's not an excuse for how you treated me, but it's an explanation. Can you forgive us?" Mom asked. "I'm working on it. I'm in therapy. Trying to process everything. But I'm not ready to just move on and pretend nothing happened. We need to rebuild. Slowly. With honesty and boundaries." "We'll do whatever it takes," Dad said. "Good. Because I'm not going to be the invisible daughter anymore. I'm not going to accept being treated as less than. If we're going to be family, it's going to be real." They agreed. And over the next year, things slowly improved. We had weekly calls, monthly dinners, therapy sessions together to work through our family dynamics. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks, moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. But we were trying. Actually trying. Ryan reached out several times. Apologized. Said he was in therapy. Said he was trying to be better. Said he wanted a relationship with me. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. The wound was too deep. The betrayal too profound. But I didn't hate him. I just didn't trust him. And trust, once broken so completely, might never be repaired. 1.5 years after that Christmas morning, I was promoted to assistant principal at my school. It came with a significant raise. Not hedge fund money, but enough to feel comfortable. Secure. I bought a small house. Nothing fancy but mine. With a yard and a garden and space to breathe. My parents came to my housewarming. Brought gifts. Helped me set up furniture. Told me they were proud of me. It was the first time they'd said those words in years. Maybe ever. And I realized something. I didn't need Ryan's money or his approval. I didn't need to be the golden child. I just needed to be seen, valued, respected. And I'd fought for that. Had stood up for myself. Had refused to accept being treated as less than. That Christmas morning, when Ryan sneered at my gift, he'd thought he was putting me in my place, reminding me of my inferior status. Instead, he'd pushed me to finally see my own worth, to stop accepting crumbs of affection, to demand better. So I did. I held him accountable, exposed his lies, forced consequences. And in doing so, I'd freed myself, freed my parents, and given Ryan the only thing that might save him, the truth about who he'd become. 2 years after that Christmas, I received an unexpected package. No return address. Inside was a handmade journal, leather-bound, expensive, with a note. Megan, I kept the journal you gave me. Started writing in it during therapy. It helped me process everything I'd done, everything I'd become. You were right about me, about all of it. I'm working on being better. Not for you. Not to earn forgiveness. Just to be a person I can respect. Thank you for holding me accountable. It was the greatest gift you could have given me. Ryan. I opened the journal. Inside were pages of entries, reflections on his behavior, apologies he'd written but never sent, realizations about how money had corrupted him, how he'd hurt everyone around him, how he'd lost himself. It was honest, raw, real. I cried reading it, not from forgiveness, not from reconciliation, but from recognition that maybe, possibly, Ryan was doing the work, was becoming someone different. I didn't respond, didn't reach out, just put the journal on my shelf next to the one I'd given him that Christmas morning, the one he'd called cheap, the one that had started everything. And I moved forward with my life, a life built on my own terms, with people who valued me, with self-respect and boundaries and the knowledge that I was worth more than I'd been taught to believe. That Christmas morning, Ryan had sneered at my gift and said, "Another cheap thing you bought." So I showed him exactly what that cheap thing cost. Not in dollars, but in truth, in consequences, in the dismantling of a false identity built on cruelty and condescension. And in the end, that gift was worth more than any Rolex. Because it gave us both something money couldn't buy, the chance to become who we were meant to be.